Well, welcome. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Understanding Business. This is episode 157. I'm your host, Peter Lamont, and we have a really great show planned today. I'm very excited to be able to be speaking with Mike Brown, who is the CEO and founder of Death Wish Coffee. And for those of you who might not yet know of Death Wish Coffee, well, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, but seriously, I mean, this is, for me, I stumbled upon this coffee. We'll talk about it when we bring Mike on. It's by far, for me, the best coffee I've ever had. I love it, and I can't get enough of it. And, we're going to talk today about how he developed this brand and this business and how it all started. So we have a lot to get through and a lot to learn from Mike. Mike, I want to welcome you to the show and thank you for being on today.
Hi, thank you, Peter. It's a pleasure to be here.
I can't say enough about Death Wish Coffee. And I know a lot of times, you get somebody on a show and the host or people on the show will want to butter you up and tell you how good it is. But I really, truly love the coffee. I happened to just find it on Amazon, ordered some, and fell in love with it, and then started looking into the Death Wish story. And it's such a great business story. And I figured, why not have you on so we can talk about it? Because like I said, if you haven't tried it yet, you've got to try it. It's the best. You did a great job with it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're getting great response from our customers, and everyone seems to love it. I mean, we have had very few complaints, but for those people who it doesn't fit their taste, we always offer 100% money back guarantee on our coffee. So, and we don't BS people around or anything. We just give them the money back because we know different people have different tastes. Not for everyone, but a lot of people love it.
Well, let's talk for a few minutes about how you got started and what your background is, because my understanding is that you owned a coffee shop in Saratoga Springs, New York for about 7 years prior to developing Death Wish. But before we get into Death Wish, how did you even get involved with owning the coffee shop? Because a lot of the people that listen to this show, they themselves are entrepreneurs or they want to get into a business and they have no idea how to go about doing that. What was your background and how did you develop into the coffee shop?
Okay, yeah, I really didn't even start drinking coffee until I was 24 or 25. I was an accountant for the state of New York for a few years, and I thought that's what I wanted to do, through my late teens and early 20s, until I actually got in the accounting world and I was stuck behind a desk and punching numbers and reconciling bank accounts for days on end. And I was like, whoa, this isn't for me. So
you needed the coffee for that job.
Yeah. And I'd come home from work and I'd talk to my roommate and I'd tell him, hey, after 2:00, I can't do anything. I'm wiped out from the day. He's like, why don't you try some coffee? Drink some coffee. That's what I do. And I was like, all right. I never, it might seem strange, but at the time I'd never really drank coffee very often. So I started doing that, and I was like, Will Ferrell in that movie Kicking and Screaming. I was like, I can't believe how great this beverage is. So I really kind of got passionate about it. I really started to, it was kind of a late love in life. And I realized that the accounting world wasn't a world for me, and working in the cube wasn't my strength. So I, quit that job, took a year off trying to figure out what I was going to do. And started to look into running a coffee shop just because I didn't have any other real skills other than, accounting, which I didn't love.
Right.
I love coffee, and I went in and tried to learn as much as I could about the industry as possible. Kind of dove headfirst into running a business that I didn't know how to run, and struggled with that for 4 or 5 years. Lost a lot of money that I had set aside. So I kind of learned the hard way. Just kind of rolled with punches, learned as I went along, and eventually I got smart and started reading books on how to run a successful business, and eventually I started looking into e-commerce to kind of supplement my income, and I started getting passionate about e-commerce and online marketing, and
right. And that helped you develop.
And then I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That helped you develop your brick and mortar business as well.
It did. Initially, we started, trying some online marketing strategies that helped bring people into, my coffee shop, and things were always improving. So, I always knew I was getting a little bit better at running the business, and it took about 5 years for us to, turn into the black, start making some positive gains on the store. And it was right around that same time that Death Wish Coffee came into the picture. And that was initially a product developed, I wouldn't say out of desperation, but out of kind of, hey, this might be my, my last hope to make it in the coffee world, because I was, wasn't doing great. I sold my house at the time. I moved back in with my mother. I was, I took everything I had in life, poured it into this coffee shop, poured it into this business, until, Death Wish Coffee came, and then things started to, come back around. And it's, you learn a lot when you have no money. You really learn how to be resourceful. And I'm using a lot of those strategies still to, push Death Wish Coffee and my coffee shops as well right now.
Now, how did Death Wish Coffee develop? I mean, you say it was almost out of desperation, but what gave you the idea? How did you actually develop the product? Because I would imagine, I don't know much about actual coffee making process, but I would imagine that you're using different beans than what traditional coffees are. So how did that all work out? How did that come about?
Right. Yeah. So as I worked in my coffee shop, I read tons of industry reports and learned as much as I could about coffee. I learned that there are different types of coffee beans. Some coffee beans are more popular than other coffee beans. Some have more caffeine than other coffee beans. Some, they all taste different. I started experimenting with, highly caffeinated coffee beans and highly flavorful coffee beans, and blending them together until I came up with a coffee blend that was not only really highly caffeinated, but tasted very good as well.
Right.
A lot of the biggest challenge with highly caffeinated beans or Robusta beans is that they don't taste very good once roasted. They almost taste like a car tire. They're not good. So you have to roast them right, and then blending them with other coffee beans that make them taste better is the key. So I initially got the idea from my customers, because they're always asking me. They'd come in, "Hey Mike, give me your strongest cup of coffee." And I went online. I'm like, okay, what's the strongest cup of coffee out there? What's the strongest coffee out there? Right. And at the time when I searched, there wasn't one coffee that fit the bill, and that kind of was a little flag for, hey, maybe there's an opportunity in this market to make a very, very strong coffee that that can potentially be the world's strongest coffee.
So one thing that you just said, which I think is really something that people can learn, is that you listen to your customers, which I think is such a good, valuable lesson. Because if you had just been focused on, this is what I'm doing, this is what I want to do and where I'm going, and ignored what your customers were saying, maybe this wouldn't have come about. So I think that there's a lot to be said for listening and getting positive and negative feedback from the people that you're working with.
Absolutely. And that's a lesson I learned, I guess, back then, maybe by accident, but I still, to this day, we survey our customers with every purchase. We, call them up on the phone, talk to them, when we can.
Right.
And, hear what they want and listen to them. That's the most important part. You got to remember, I'm sure most people know this, but maybe they don't, that, you're not making the product for yourself. You're making it for your customers. And even if it kind of flies against in the face of conventional wisdom, sometimes it's just better to listen to your customers. It seems to work out most of the time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that a lot of businesses fail because they're so dead set on doing something one way, or this idea of, nobody's my boss. And even when you're an entrepreneur and you go out and start your own business, I mean, you still, you in a sense have a boss, and that boss is your clients and your customers, because if you don't do what they want or need, they're going to go somewhere else. And I think that was, something that you did, which was super positive and helped you develop your product. And I think a lot of people overlook that. It sounds like a simple thing, but when you're involved in it, you oftentimes don't even realize it.
Right.
So now,
exactly.
Now you've developed the coffee, the bean, and I assume you're doing this all in-house. How do you go from just making this product and saying, all right, this is really good, I like it, people are responding to it, and develop into what it is today? I mean, Death Wish Coffee has its own website, its own branding, its own marketing. You've been on some pretty big, high-profile shows. How did you get from, all right, here's a product that I really like and I think it's cool? How did you get from that to where you are right now?
It was a slow progression. It started with a website and a product that I had conceptualized and made samples of, but I hadn't actually created a full product yet. But I started marketing it anyways, and I sold my first bag before I even had, the packaging and everything. So once I sold my first bag, I had about a day and a half to fulfill this product order with a product that I knew the coffee I wanted, and I've tried it. I just didn't have the packaging or anything. So I had to throw something together real quick, sent it out. And then a couple of days later, another package was sold. So it started really slow, like 1 or 2 bags sold a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started getting some good reviews online. And I kind of used those testimonials, plus testimonials from friends and family who I gave the product to and tried it. And those testimonials themselves sold, a couple more bags a week. And eventually I had to, invest in some packaging for the product. And then when I was at the coffee shop, I decided, I wasn't really giving it my full focus. My full focus was still the coffee shop. And I decided, this product seems to be growing. I'm going to hire, one person, and it was, a barista of mine at the time. And her job was just to focus on that business and just do free marketing things, like post on social media, send out a couple free products to some influencers online, whether they're, bloggers or news sites.
Mm-hmm.
She started doing that. And once I had one person focusing on it full time, that's when it went from a couple sales a week to, 5 or 10 a day. And then it kind of grew from there. And then we started getting some great reviews and some attention from bloggers and news reporters until, a couple of the big blogs picked us up and the big news shows, kind of wanted to see what our product was about, and we did some interviews. And then from there, I had to hire on a team, and then I had to move, from my coffee shop into a warehouse location and get a new roaster. And now we have 3 warehouses. Wow. And, a marketing team, a customer service team, a shipping team, a distribution team, sales team. And yeah, it's growing. I mean, we're still pretty lean. There's only 8 of us right now, but we outsource a lot of our tasks, like distribution. We have a third-party distribution system that we work with. And
right.
A lot of our packaging is done by third-party businesses. So we're staying lean, but we're still growing, and we need to hire a couple people. So
it's really
that's good.
Yeah, it's great. It's amazing. What's interesting to me is the fact that this product seemed, and maybe I'm wrong, but tell me if I am, this seemed to grow from the internet versus growing out of your coffee shop. Is that true? Is that how it really worked?
Yeah, that's exactly how it worked. Just through just free marketing stuff we were doing online. It really grew online before even anyone knew we had it in our coffee shop. Once we did have Good Morning America came up and shot a piece in our store. Once that happened, it kind of put, like, I guess, our coffee shop on the map more than it did our product. Well, the product as well, but I mean that was, you know, the big push locally. You know, everyone saw that and they're like, "Oh, this product's right, a local product in town." But yeah, it grew on the internet first.
So that's such a cool thing, because, you know, so many times I think people are so stuck on this idea of the internet being a sort of secondary source to helping you make money by selling a product or service. You know, they're so used to the brick and mortar thing, or you'll go the way extreme where you see people with this passive income idea, which, you know, if you don't do passive income right, it's not going to just land you $1 million a year the way that it seems to do, it at least suggests. So, you know, you kind of took it beyond and went online and made this product grow online, which is pretty amazing. And you did this all by yourself.
Yeah, I did by myself. I read a lot of books, and I read tons of blogs, and I try to keep up on, you know, what's going on in the online marketplace. But initially, I did it by myself. Now I have a great team working for me, and I swear they're all smarter than I am already, which is awesome, because I can, you know, it allows me a lot of room to, you know, make mistakes, because I usually fix them before it.
Well, you know, they say you always surround yourself with the smartest, best people, and you must have done that.
Yeah, they're amazing, and yeah, the internet's a really powerful tool right now, and I think it's easier right now. It's easier than ever. You don't have to know how to code. You can make a beautiful website by just dragging and dropping things.
Yeah.
I keep making it easier. There's so much opportunity out there, and you know, let's keep an eye on it, because new competitors entering the market every day who are doing very similar things, doing the exact same thing. So we're working hard to, you know, to differentiate our brand from the rest.
Right. Now let's talk. Let's talk for a minute about something. I wanted to talk about marketing, but you just made a point that I want to ask about. Now, you can't or you don't have a way of protecting a proprietary blend in the coffee world, do you? Like, can you?
No,
you can't go out and file a patent
crop,
for this.
You know, it's like an agricultural crop, so it changes yearly. We have to stay on top of it.
So, I mean, you have
the only thing we can do. I'm pretty free and open about, you know, what goes into our product, because I don't think anyone can deliver it as good as we can.
Mm-hmm.
I just think we buy it. We have a great source to get the best beans. I think we have the best, if not one of the best, coffee roasters, and our packaging is top of the line. Everything we get, I make sure we get the best of, and our customer service and I think our branding it differentiates us from the pack.
Yeah. Let's talk about the branding for a second, because the logo, the bag, you've got the skull and crossbones, and it looks like, hey, this is badass coffee. And I want to talk first about the symbolism behind the logo. A, is this you? Are you this badass kind of guy? How did that develop? And B, what has that to do with the kind of people that you hire, the look of the websites? Let's talk first about you. Are you a badass skull and crossbones coffee drinker?
I think I used to be more than I am now. Now I'm a touch sensitive to caffeine now. I can't drink it every day. I have, I taste coffee all day long, and now, if I drink coffee like late into the day now, I'm up all night. So I have to be a little careful. Back when I created the coffee, yes, I thought I was badass. But as I think I'm a lot different of a person than I was, even 4 years ago. And that caffeine, and it's powerful. So yeah, like I said, I can't drink it every day. That branding, I guess it is still me. I have that mentality. I'm very competitive. I'm very If you get me to that level, I guess I can, lash out a little. But for the most part, I'm pretty even keeled now. My staff, however, they live and die by the brand. If you can, picture, I don't know how to explain it, just bearded men covered in tattoos. Like, those are the guys that work for me, believe it or not.
That's what the image.
Eric and Taya.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Kane, Eric, and Taya, they have more tattoos on them than probably I couldn't even count, hundreds. If you picture that's what our workers look like, it really is what our workers look like.
Well, the branding is so sort of specific because it sort of elicits that, hey, look, this is badass biker coffee. I mean, this is not something that you go and sip. This is something that you've got to be, a man to drink. That's the kind of image that it presents. And that, I think, is unique in the coffee industry because I haven't seen that. I've seen it in like the hot sauce industry where you've got the, the super, super hot sauce stuff. But what's really cool about it is that you've got that image, yet it's so accessible to everybody. And your website is super friendly. How do you balance the idea of, look, these are the kinds of people that I want working for me. These are the I mean, I don't want to stereotype, but this is the type of person that I want. Like, you don't have a Poindexter working for you with a bow tie, if you know what I mean. So how do you
no
how do you bring that crowd together, that group, that team, and then this image and make it accessible to everybody, not just to, a biker crowd?
Initially, those are the customers who I was making the coffee for. And those are the customers in my shop asking for the coffee. And when it started to get busy, when we started to get orders where I couldn't handle it myself, I hired my customers who were in the store. I said, hey guys, I need some help. Can you help me with this? And those are the customers that came on to be employees. So it's kind of weird how it evolved like that. Yeah, I made the coffee for them and they became, my employees.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there's great coworkers now. Yeah, they're awesome. So I mean, that's how that evolved. Initially, yeah, the brand concept came from, I wanted to make something dangerous, and the symbol for danger, and in my mind was that skull and crossbones, like on like a vial, like high up on the shelf. And I was like, wow, that would be, kind of a great coffee. That'd be an eye-catching coffee bag. It was up on somebody's shelf. Somebody would grab that, take it down, smell it.
Yeah.
Try that coffee.
Well, I was drinking the coffee on the show a few months ago and happened to have the bag just sitting on my desk and decided, hey, you know what? Look, this bag is so cool because I started getting people in the chat room saying, what are you drinking? What is that? And then, I talked about it and showed them. And after the show, I got more responses about the cool bag that was on my desk than the show itself. So, it really is an eye-catching, great piece of marketing because it's super cool. That's really, there's no other way to describe it.
Yeah, it's cool and it attracts amazing people, our customers. If we can follow all of our customers on social media now. And all of our customers on social media they're exactly what you'd expect. They look exactly like my employees. They're pretty badass. They're Harley Davidson drivers. They're, just metalheads, and really into the tattoo world, rockers. Yeah, they're amazing people. They do some great stuff, and they push the brand, which is great.
Right. And if you have people that love what you're doing, I mean, I think it's a really cool story that these people that were your customers became employees and now they love it and they're pushing it out. I think that when you've got somebody that really loves what you're doing, pushing out your brand is easy. It's part of what they live for. And then I think that repays you, tenfold, because once that social media buzz catches on, I mean, it just grows like wildfire.
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes back around. You just have to keep listening to what they want, to what they say, and make adjustments kind of based on. I think our business basically just caters to our customers now, and try to keep the audience, keep that audience happy and growing.
Now, this is a question that people are just going to want an answer to. Is Death Wish Coffee more profitable than your coffee shop was when you started?
Yes, by far, it does a lot more revenue than my coffee shop. Probably by about probably by 20 times right now.
Wow. Now, what's also interesting is the fact that you had this idea, you had the courage, and you went out and you opened up this coffee shop, and things weren't as easy as you had hoped. Apparently, things weren't going super great, and that's where you developed this product. But a lot of times, so many people who get into a situation where things aren't exactly what they thought they would be, they back out, they give up, they'd go back to that accounting job, and they'd say, all right, I tried and I failed. What's different about you? What made you say, all right, I guess I could go back to being an accountant, but I won't. I'm going to come up with something else. What was in you that made you do that?
There was this guy. He worked for me in the accounting department. His name is Win. He was an older guy. And as I was walking out my last day work, he pulled me aside. He's like, Mike, you'll be back. They all come back. And I'm like, that stuck with me. And I'm like, hell no, I am not coming back here. It doesn't matter how bad it's going to get. I am not going to prove this guy right. So it's just me being stubborn. And I thought about it too. When I was drawing out my worst case scenario, back when I was, putting in my 2 weeks as an accountant, I know, worst case scenario, I can always come back, get back into this or a similar position. But then that gentleman said that, and that stuck with me. I was not going to prove him right.
So that kind of fueled you. So when you were actually, now you've got your own shop and things aren't going great. And I'm sure, like all entrepreneurs, there are those days where you're like, oh, maybe this was a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. Did that sort of fuel you and say, well, wait a minute, I'm not going back to there. I'm not going to prove that guy right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I had to sell my house at the time. Like I said, I moved back into my mom. I had to borrow money from my mother at one point just to meet payroll. And, I had tons of unpaid bills. It was really desperate for a while. The way my business, the coffee shop works, where I'm from is, during the winters, there's nobody in town. You make no money. And in the summer, business is booming. So you really have to budget yourself correctly so your money lasts through the winter time.
Right.
And I think this year, that particular year, I didn't do a great job at that. And you get really desperate, but I was, sticking to my guns. I wasn't going to go back, and I might not have. Like I said, I don't think I'm the smartest guy, and that probably wasn't the smartest decision, but it worked out in the end.
Well, what do you attribute?
Might be dumb luck.
Well, no, I mean, it can't be. It's got to be something about you, and I think it's something that a lot of entrepreneurs have, where it's so easy to just give up and to say this isn't working. Because you got to tell me, when you were just at the coffee shop, how many months or days or weeks did you experience that feeling of like, oh man, what am I going to do? And that panic and that fear that all entrepreneurs experience. You had to have experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. It was always there. It's still there to some extent now, even though my businesses are both doing really well. There's always that what if scenario, and I don't know, you get to this point where I don't know if it's rock bottom or what, or bottom where it's just like, it can't get any worse. Just, put your nose to the grindstone and keep working hard, keep researching, find out what works, find out what doesn't, and run your business better. It's very unforgiving, and it's business can be very wouldn't say humiliating, but it does give you a sense of humility. Everything directly reflects back onto you. Like if your business fails, you can't, point to you. I mean, I guess you could, but I wouldn't point to any one reason like, hey, that's the reason why my business fails. It's you're the reason your business fails.
Yeah.
Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, it directly reflects back onto you. And I played sports all my life. I'm very competitive. I feel like I can be good at something if I really focus on it and really try hard. In business, early on, that wasn't the case for me. It took years of perfecting and fine-tuning until I, got it right. And I study business every day right now. I sit with a business coach for 2 hours every week. I study all the Rockefeller habits every week. So there's always something to learn.
That's so important. And I think that's where so many people go wrong, because they get into something, they think they know it, and then there's never this idea of constant, evolution, or let me learn more, or let me see what other people are doing. I would imagine that the coffee industry is quite competitive, because you've got the large chain stores, then you've got more of the boutique people, and there are other companies out there that tout, highly caffeinated coffee. I would imagine that you are constantly keeping watch over your competition to see what you could do better, what they're doing. Is that like a weekly thing, a daily thing for you?
That's daily. Yeah, I have my Google alerts set up where I get hit with all the coffee industry news, all my competitors' news, anything that hits the internet, that involves, my company. And I'm always doing like reputation management, making sure no one says anything bad about my company. And if they do, I can address it, quickly, swiftly, and keep on top of industry trends. I go to most of the big trade shows. I'm always talking with people in the industry, reading all the trade magazines. Yeah, it's a lot of work just staying on top of everything. And all my employees do the same thing. They're showing me more stuff than I'm actually finding on my own.
Right. Now, let's talk about your employees for a second, because that's an area where a lot of people just go completely wrong. They don't know how to hire people. They don't know what to believe. I mean, you were an accountant. You weren't a human resources specialist. So what did you do when you started hiring people, and what do you do now to make sure that they're the right fit, that they're going to work, with your industry, with your company, and keep them? Because retention rate, that's something you want. You want to be able to retain your employees. What do you do? How do you interview and screen, and what's your process?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest challenge right now. My core employees that have had on board for the longest period of time, they have seen the ups and downs of this business, and they've seen the big ups, and they see the potential. And I try to paint a very clear, compelling vision for the future. And they're bought in. They know where we're going. They know what we're doing, and they're excited about it. They see, how their futures can be enhanced by, if the company does well. Now, bringing on a new employee and trying to, convey that to them so they want to work just as hard as, the employees that I have now. That's a challenge of mine, because they haven't been through they haven't seen the ups and the downs and, everything in between. And we have a very, very slow hiring process, I guess. A lot of interviews, we have a couple phone interviews, then we have a sit-down interviews. We keep a score sheet of, who we think is going to fit in the best. We bring people down. We have a trial hiring period where, we hire them on and see how they work out for 30, 60, and 90 days. And it seems we've hired, within the last 6 months, we've hired 2 employees on our production side that have worked out well. And we hired 1 customer service representative who only lasted 2 weeks. And then she was like, this wasn't what I expected. So
right.
We're shooting 2 for 3, 66% so far. Which isn't too bad.
No, it's not bad at all. And I think that what I like about your process is the slow approach, the slow and steady, because oftentimes I think people get so desperate that I need help now. I can't do this. I need help now. And you go out and you bring on people that you really haven't had the time to get to know or to work with. And the next thing you know, they're not doing what you want them to do, and everybody's to blame but yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So the slow process for you, I mean, but it's also got to be challenging because you might need somebody right away, but with your process, it's slower. But if you're bringing in people and you're above 50% with your retention and the way they're working out, that's I think a pretty good thing.
Yeah, I think so. And the people we have, they're able to do fill multiple positions. We counted not too long ago. Each of us are doing 20 to 30, jobs that would be done in a big corporation. So they're able to get tons of stuff done, and they're committed, and they'll come in, they'll work 50, 60 hours a week. And they're not getting paid a ton of money to do it either. They're they see the potential. They're bought in.
Well, they must also believe in you. So let's talk for a second about you as a leader. I mean, you started this whole thing and it was your coffee shop. You didn't have a partner or anything, right? It was just you?
No, I didn't have a partner. I worked, closely, with my store manager, Scott, and I've known him forever. But it was, just me in the beginning, and it still is just, I still have 100% ownership. But people have been with me the longest. I almost feel like they're, partners in the business only because they've been there for, they've been there since the beginning. I even hesitate to call them employees sometimes. I call them coworkers because when we make decisions, we try to make them together. If it really comes down to it, I'll step up and be like, okay, we're just going to do this, do it this way until it works out. But for the most part, I try to hire people who are pretty entrepreneurial minded, where they can, I can give them an end result. I don't have to worry about how they accomplish the result. They can kind of do it their own way as long as, X gets done.
Right. Now, you as a leader, you said that you still do a lot of the jobs that the other, people that you're working with do too. How important is it for you to show the people that are working with you that you're hands-on too? You're not just delegating everything and walking away going to play golf. How important is that?
Yeah, that's important. I'm here every day. And I try to keep everyone informed on, what I'm doing. And they see how hard I work and how emotional I get about the business. So they know I'm not, just cashing checks and playing golf and going on trips all the time. I'm here on the ground floor with them every day. I'm always in the warehouse, making sure the coffee is getting roasted correctly, making sure it's getting packed correctly. I'm not as hands-on as I used to be. I mean, just for the sake of growing the business, if you're too hands-on, your business isn't going to grow. You're just going to kind of get stuck in the trenches. So I do try to, I have my day-to-day managing hours and I have my CEO hours. So the mornings are my day-to-day managing hours. I'll come in, make sure, everything's going out as expected. And then I kind of pull out a little bit in the afternoon and kind of focus on strategy and, more CEO forward facing activities.
It's a good way to look at it because you're right. You're absolutely right. If you continue to be your own employee, if you're working for yourself, you're never going to be able to develop your business. You're just going to continue to be an employee for yourself. You're your boss. But that nice distinction of I'm going to do some of the hands-on stuff and then I'm going to go and shift and become the CEO. I mean, that's a really nice way of sort of differentiating between the two roles that you have. So I think that's something that it's another thing that people just completely overlook. They get so wrapped up into working for themselves that they become their own employees.
Yeah, it's dangerous. You won't grow if that's happening. You really won't grow. I've stalled my business a few times by doing just that.
Now
and it's a challenge too, to balancing it.
Right. Now, you were talking before we went live today. You were talking about some of the new products that you're developing and the idea of you always have to continue to grow. So, let's talk a little bit about that idea. How did you learn that idea of, okay, because I developed this great Death Wish coffee, but now it's not enough. I need to evolve and do more. A lot of people would have just been satisfied with Death Wish and said, all right, here it is. And this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then, of course, 10 years from now, they'll say, why did my business fail? What prompted you to say we've got to keep evolving and doing more?
Yeah, we're always trying to innovate and kind of be the leader of, be very innovative in our market. We try to do at least one new product per year. I feel like that's a balancing act too. You don't want to take on too much. You don't want to jump at every opportunity that gets in front of you, because then you'll lose focus, and your core business, I think, can fall off, and you won't deliver as great of an experience or product as you're promising your customers. But at the same time, you don't want to keep doing the same thing to the point where your product gets stale. So I try to say one product a year, because I think that's reasonable. I don't have an exact science worked out or anything,
right,
but I want to stay relevant in the consumer's eyes. I want to, keep giving them what they ask for, and at the same time, maybe show them some new things that we're working on, and see, what their response is to it, and just kind of jump on the one that they like the best. So we're always working on like little tiny projects, and if the customers say they love it, then we'll really kind of push our focus in that direction.
Now, what's interesting that I found on your site is Barrel Brand coffee, and you've got a large tie-in with the Alzheimer's Association. So, what does that mean to you? How did this all come about?
Well, caffeine coffee there's been studies out there that say it helps with Alzheimer's. I have I think an increased risk for Alzheimer's according to, my family's history. So I have an emotional connection with the Alzheimer's Association. They do, an amazing job, and they have a very good presence in upstate New York. And when we, we're putting this coffee together, I was like, hey, let's, I think it'd be nice if we can, tie this into a more, a positive, what's the word I'm looking for? Have more of a positive impact on the world, and that's what we chose to go with.
And
so, don't do anything with Death Wish coffee. Just because the name's very, the name's very suggestive. So we didn't want to tie actual Death Wish coffee in with anything initially, and we may in the future. But Barrel Brand was a separate, it was more or less a separate brand where we could, give back a little.
Yeah. How important in general is it to give back for you? Because I know a lot of companies will say, you know what, yeah, we're going to donate to this organization and that organization, and they're doing it to look good and for tax breaks. Is that why you do it, or is there a greater connection? I mean, is that really who you are?
I think it's who I am, and it's kind of exciting. It's kind of, I don't know. I almost think it's magic. I've read a million times, hey, when you give back, it comes back tenfold.
Right.
For me, when in my life, when I've taken time or taken my hard-earned money and given it back, it always comes back 10 times in amazing ways, and it's really like magic. So now it's, I don't know. It's almost I don't want to say it's like an experiment, because it might cheapen it, but when you give back, it really does come back tenfold. And it wasn't until I actually tried it, I was like, okay, because I'm personally, like, in the past, I wasn't a, hey, give to every charity type thing. And, I wouldn't say I am now. It's just the ones that kind of hit home with me now, where I'm like, hey, they're doing something good. Let's help them out now that I can. And it always comes back in one way or another. It's like magic.
And I think it's magic because you believe in it. And I was hoping that was the answer you were going to give me, because so many people out there, they just do it because it makes them look good, and they're not getting anything from it because they don't really believe in it. And I think, this idea of corporate social responsibility is something that's become just a buzzword. Now everybody goes and does it, and it loses any of its positive element. And that's why I think that when you've got an organization like yours where you're going to just go and do it because you want to, because you really believe in it, and you're not looking for somebody to come and pat you on the back and say, "Great job, Mike." I mean, that's what it's all about. And I wish more people did it that way.
Yeah, it's exciting and it's special. It is special. It's special, especially if you can see like, you know, the ground floor of where, what you're contributing to, and see the faces. That helps.
Right. Definitely. You seem like a pretty mild, even-tempered guy. What kind of advice would you give to entrepreneurs out there who are dealing with these ups and downs and the uncertainty of their business and the idea of this constant stress? I mean, you might be a guy that gets stressed, but just in talking to you, I mean, you seem pretty even tempered, but there's so many people out there that just have such a hard time dealing with the stress of owning their own business. What kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, you need an audience, and I think the best way to get your audience is to make a list. Keep a list of your customers and or even potential audience or potential customers. If you grow a list, whether it's an email list or a mailing list or even a list of addresses or phone numbers, people you can contact all the time and sell your product to, and if they love your product, show it to other people, then that is worth its weight in gold.
That's something that people talk about all the time, is this idea of growing your marketing list or growing your email list. And that's why a lot of people will give away things because they're looking for that email address. And I've heard in the past people argue that, oh, email is dead, mailing lists are dead. I don't agree with that at all. And it doesn't sound like you do either.
No, definitely not. I mean, especially if it's a good list. Then don't go out and buy a list of people. That's garbage. The list is only as good as who's putting it together, how you're putting it together, and who those people are. So I mean, you got to grow it the right way. With either your potential customers who love the product, and then if you can even segment it down to, hey, this customer likes to buy this coffee on this day, and you can get a few of those people, and then just send them a reminder on that day. You can do a million things, but that's just one example.
Yeah. I really, I think that there's so much that you've talked about today that people can learn so much from. And I don't even know if, as you're talking, you realize what sort of great advice you're giving to people, because the things that you use to develop Death Wish Coffee, this idea of constant learning and listening to the customers and caring and giving quality and making sure that the stuff that you're putting out is not just there to generate revenue, but it's actually quality. I think that there's so many things that you've done right and that people can learn from. So, I mean, I really think you've done a great job, certainly done a great job with the product, but really have been able to give some really super advice to people that are struggling or want to become an entrepreneur. Before I let you go, and before I ask you how people can get your coffee and learn more about it, I just want to ask you one more question.
Mm-hmm.
What is the number one piece of advice that you could give to somebody who is thinking about going out there and leaving their office job and taking a risk? Maybe somebody that has a family, somebody that has people relying on them. What's the number one piece of advice you could give them?
Okay, yeah, thanks for the kind words, by the way. I really appreciate it. The number one piece of advice I'd give to them is don't do what I did. Don't just drop everything, quit, cut off your income 100%. I would, first start with trying to free up a couple hours of your time and, dipping into whatever market you want to dip into. Maybe follow some blogs, learn as much as you can about the industry. Send out some. You can almost launch a fake product nowadays and test it out before you even invest any money. I wouldn't suggest investing any money initially in any product. Maybe just a couple $100 on a prototype if it's a product business. Or there's just so many ways to test out a business for free before you dive into the market. And don't quit your job if you have a family. Develop that second income first, and wait until that second income, is greater than your current income before you quit. I wish I did that before I kind of took the dive. Looking back, I'd be much further ahead right now if I, was a little bit smarter and on the onset.
Right. But you know what? We always look back and I think always second guess ourselves. And if that had happened, you might not be where you are today with Death Wish. That might not have ever happened.
Yes, that's true. Very true.
So how can people learn more about your product? How can they get your coffee? I know we talked about Amazon, but I also want you to talk a little bit about your website and how people can contact you if they've got questions, or if they want to, sign up for a subscription or just buy an individual bag.
Yeah, our website is www.deathwishcoffee.com. You can buy it there. You can go to Amazon. The great, we collaborate with Amazon through Amazon Prime, so you can go on Amazon and get it shipped to your house within 2 to 3 days. You can get a subscription to our website. We actually have a new website launching next week, so it might look a little different than you see it today, but it should be just as easy to purchase it. We ship everything out priority mail. It's shipped to your house in 2 to 3 days. So yeah, you can do either one. We're also available on eBay, and for international customers, we are in Amazon Canada, Amazon UK, and I think you can buy international on eBay as well.
So you're out there, and anybody that wants to try it, I definitely encourage you to go and check it out. And look, there's this money back guarantee, which is also a super great thing to do because you said at the beginning of the show, maybe somebody isn't on board with the flavor, or they don't like something about it, and that's okay. And you're responsible. You're going to give them their money back. So there's really nothing to lose. And I really think that most people, especially if you like coffee and not just some generic coffee that you get at a deli, I think you're gonna love it. I fell in love with it right away, and I wasn't even trying to. I just wanted to try it out because it looked cool.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, we're not trying to pull the wool over anyone's eyes or anything. We want this to be a win-win transaction. If the customer doesn't like it, we don't. It's a second transaction. We just flip the switch and we give you their money back. We just want people to love the product. And if they don't, then that's okay. No loss on their end.
But if they don't love the product, they're still going to love the company, because when a company goes and does that and gives them their money back, how can you not love the company for that? So I think that's a great thing. I think, you win, the customer wins. I think it's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, that's what we want. Everyone, we want this to be we want to be a strong company, and to be a strong company, we do what we say we're going to do.
Well, that's great. And one other point I want to make about the coffee is that it's certified organic coffee, right?
Yep, it's USDA certified and fair trade. So we make sure it's done responsibly, and the people who grow the product get paid what they deserve.
Oh, that's great. Mike, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be on the show with me today and to give so much of yourself to our listeners. I appreciate it. And I really love your product, love what you're doing. I wish you continued success. And I hope that everyone listening to this show goes out and tries it, because I think you're going to love it. So thank you so much, and good luck, Mike.
Great. Thank you very much, Peter.
Now, one more thing.
It was fun. Thank you.
Before I let you go, one more thing.
Sure.
We have had some questions come in while we've been live, and don't have a chance to get to them today. But maybe we'll have you on in the future if you'd be up for it, and maybe we can get through some of our listeners' questions. How does that sound?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
All right, perfect. All right, Mike, thanks a lot. And we look forward to seeing new products and your new website, and we'll check in with you soon.
Thanks, Peter.
All right.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye. So just had Mike from Death Wish Coffee. Really, I think so much that we can learn from him. It's just, you gotta pull it out and you gotta write this down, because these are the lessons that I think are so critical. If you are an entrepreneur, if you're thinking about being an entrepreneur, you've got to do some of these things that Mike did. And one of them that I just love is the idea of constant learning. You never know enough. And whether it's constant learning about your particular industry or your competition, or how to do something with technology. He talked about the idea of not needing to know coding to build a website, and it's drag and drop. You might not even know that if you don't go out there and start looking at ways for you to, build a website or to make your business work. So this idea of constant learning, I think, is super important. So many people, they just get stuck on, well, this is what I know. And then they become like a dinosaur. They don't develop. Their product doesn't develop. Their company doesn't develop. And they don't understand why. Because, I've got all this knowledge. But it's not enough to have knowledge if you're not constantly learning and changing and evolving. So that's number one. Number two lesson, which I think is so, so important: listening to your customers. And that could be in the form of customer reviews, negative feedback, positive feedback. I'm not talking about negative being just people that hate you, because that's out there everywhere and you have to deal with that. I'm talking about reviews or comments or feedback that you can use to help develop your product and your business. So negative reviews are just as good in my book as positive, because now you'll know through listening to the people that you are making this product for, you'll know what they like and don't like. And, like Mike said, he's making a product for his customers, not for himself, because maybe he likes something that you wouldn't. He's not going to force you to drink that. He wants you to experience what you like. And this idea of listening to your customer or your client, it just has such an expansive and important role in your success, to be able to know what your customer wants, to hear their complaints, to hear what they love, and to give them what they want. Imagine if he had just been one of these guys that had turned a deaf ear to what his customer wants. I don't care what they want. They're just going to get what I give them. Death Wish Coffee might not have been a reality, because he wouldn't have listened to what these people were looking for. Another great lesson is quality. This product is top quality. Whether you like the flavor, don't like the flavor, it doesn't make a difference. There are no shortcuts to this product. This is a top quality coffee. And I think it's so important that you don't take shortcuts and you don't give people junk. You don't give them something just to generate a dollar, because, that's going to come back and ultimately hurt your business. So this idea of taking the time to having the best roaster, and, that translates into your business too, whatever it might be that you're doing. If you're a graphic designer, having the best computer, the best equipment. If you're a musician, I'm sure that he didn't just buy this overnight. I'm sure it took time of investing into your business and putting into your business the best and expecting the best. That's just going to, I think, benefit you and help your product grow. People are going to love it. And even if they don't like something that you're doing, they can't argue with the quality of it. Maybe they don't like the color of your product or something about it, but they can't complain about the quality. So that idea of quality and making sure that you give people the best that you can, I love that. Also, I thought that the donation idea, this idea of giving back for the sake of giving back, is so important, from a personal standpoint, in my world, whenever I either through the company or as an individual, whenever I've given back to somebody or something, it's an unbelievable feeling. It truly is. It truly makes you feel like the world is a little bit of a smaller place and that you've connected with somebody and helped them and done something for them. And so many times for me, it's nice to see their face, but it's even nicer to be quiet about it, to do it and to not make a big deal of it. And I think that that's sort of the honesty behind charitable giving. And that's what Death Wish Coffee has done with the Alzheimer's Association. And that's probably not the exact name of it, but with Alzheimer's and research and money that's being donated there, I think that, if you listen to what Mike said, he does it because he loves it, because he feels good about doing it, not because he wants somebody to pat him on the back and say, "Oh, great job, you're such a great donator." That doesn't do anything for you. That just the idea of putting out stuff and saying to people, "Hey, look, I give back to the community." Who cares if you don't believe in what you're doing? If you're doing it simply for ratings or because other people are doing it, that for me is not a good reason to do it. And so this idea of doing it for the right reason, I think that's the only reason that you get involved in charitable giving or anything, because you're cheating yourself basically if you don't really want to do it and love what you're doing and enjoy this idea of giving. You're cheating yourself because you're never going to have. Mike described it as a miracle. It's something that's magic, he said, not a miracle, magical. And it's true. When you give out of kindness and a pure desire, you get something back, and it's undescribable. You can't even put it into words. So for those companies and those entrepreneurs out there who are just giving because it's the thing to do, I'd stop doing it until you really believe in it. So that's another lesson. Another thing that we learned from Mike today is the idea of online business. I've talked a lot in the past about passive business, passive income, and how it's not all it's cracked up to be, and that people, I think, sort of lose hope because they aren't making $1 million a year like some of the people that they're following online do. So, passive income strategies, that's one thing. But online business is separate from passive income, in my opinion. While, yes, it grows out of online. The online industry, the ability to create a website, to create a product, to reach customers, to obtain customer information, there is never in my mind, or in my opinion, been a better time than right now. Because you don't need to pay somebody to build your website. You don't need to go out and pay somebody to help you develop a mailing list. What you need is hard work, honesty, and focus. And then you go out and you take your idea, you take your product, you take your service, and you go out there and you can make it happen. The online tools we have today are greater than any other time before, and you can reach so many people and do so much for yourself. And then once you become successful and you start selling your product or service, and you can start outsourcing, you can start hiring people like Mike did. So tremendous amount of lessons that we learned today. And I really greatly appreciate him taking the time. And I really mean what I say about the product too. I love it. I'm a customer, and just give it a shot. Give it a try. His story's great. The product's great. All right, that's going to do it for today. I want to thank all of you for listening to the show, whether you listened live or you're downloading it on iTunes. Maybe you are downloading it through our website. You're listening to it on SoundCloud. Wherever you are and however you're getting this show, I want to thank you for being here and being part of the UTLRadio family. And, this is something that I love doing because I love sharing with you some of these tips and strategies and stories of people who have made it and have become successful, because there's so much that we can learn from it. And I love learning, and that's why I love what Mike said about constant learning. So thank you. Please don't forget to Give me some feedback. Let me know what you like about the show, what you don't like about the show. Make sure that you subscribe on iTunes and on YouTube, and give me some comments and engage me, and I'm going to communicate back with you. Also, don't forget to check out the new UTLRadio.com. We have a brand new site. I mean, really, really brand new, completely revamped. There's a lot of information on it. There's ways for you to buy some of the products that some of our guests who have been on this show, like Kimberly Guilfoyle, are selling. There's a ton of information about upcoming shows, and you can listen to past shows and download past videos. And it's a good way for you to communicate. There's actually now a forum on UTLRadio.com. So any way you want to get in touch with us, do so. We're going to get back in touch with you. I want to thank you for your support and for being here and being part of our family. I appreciate it. All right, that's going to do it. Stick around because we have more coming up next week, including our Monday show with my co-host Bob Hughes. But in the future, in the next couple months, we have some really great guests coming on. We've got the Willits Clan who's coming on. We've got Rich Gaspari. Just a ton of people coming up. I can't even go through all of the great guests that we're going to have in the next few weeks, few months. So check that out. Check out utlradio.com to stay updated and to know who's going to be on the show.